Welcome to Cinema Chop Shop. Watch, chop, retrofit.
So I've got some special news to announce. It's pretty awesome. My lovely wife Michelle and I have taken to sleeping in separate bedrooms, and it's not because we don't love each other. We are more in love than ever before. It's because I snore and have night terrors, and it's affecting her sleep, thus affecting her daytime Michelle. We need to normalize the idea of separate spousal bedrooms. Also, this is not a marital bliss podcast.
No, it's not. It's Cinema Chop Shop. It's a movie podcast where we get together every couple of weeks and talk about movies and such. And tonight's a very special night. I'm joined by the usual cast of experts. I've got Travis Cito, whom you've heard.
Self-proclaimed.
We have Joey Poole.
Also self-proclaimed.
And we have Todd.
I just proclaim.
And because of the format of the show, we're doing another bracket challenge.
Which are so fun.
We have invited an arbiter, a tiebreaker, if you will. My lovely wife, Allie, has joined us.
Hello.
So she's back on the show after a long, long hiatus. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. So tonight's episode, we're going to be discussing ensemble movies.
Très bien ensemble.
It came up in the week. We were discussing what makes an ensemble movie an ensemble movie. I mean, technically, all movies have a cast that comprise an ensemble. But in the context of this episode, we're talking about a film that is made up of a cast who equally contribute, more or less, to the sum of the parts.
And the subplots are all more or less equal.
Exactly. And another thing that I'm kind of using as a litmus test for my criteria for the way I'm seeing these is that if you take one of these characters, one of the actors really, more so than the characters, we take one of the actors out, how much does the film suffer? And I think that if it's like a Jenga tower kind of thing, that really defines an ensemble movie. And I think some of these that we come across in this bracket tonight will
But it's
kind of
big Jenga, like you see in like a cool brewery.
Yeah, exactly. One of those. Also, some things that we discussed leading up to this bracket. We removed films that have recently been in other bracket challenges like MASH and...
So what were those recent
Dirty Dozen.
brackets?
Dirty Dozen, yes.
We had the best
Donald Sutherland was
Donald
the,
Sutherland movie of all time.
Yeah.
Wasn't there also a another recent passing that we did? Was that
Probably.
bracket style? The best and worst of
Roger Corman?
Roger Corman.
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
that a bracket?
It was a bracket, but
Okay.
I don't know if...
I don't know if we
no,
had
it wasn't
an
a bracket.
ensemble.
No, it was just... No, it wasn't a bracket.
No bracket.
We were
Not a
just
bracket.
picking movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we took those off the board. We also took off films that are vignettes with a huge ensemble cast, like Pulp Fiction.
Right.
Those kind of movies. We just said no, it needs to be a cohesive
And that's tough though,
storyline.
because some of the characters in those vignettes crossover in other vignettes.
And I had never actually thought of that as a vignette movie or an anthology movie because they do hang together somewhat.
It's
But
a
I guess it
non-linear
is.
But
timeline.
not all of the characters interact with one another,
Correct.
and that's another thing. And I think you'll agree when we get to the bracket that there are some really solid contenders. So we had to make some rough cuts.
There's some brutal matchups in the
And the
first
matchups are brutal,
round for
absolutely. I
me.
think the majority of the films in this bracket are Rotten Tomato ratings over 90. So, as Rotten Tomatoes goes, that's pretty solid.
It's not the be-all, end-all, but
No.
it is kind of a litmus test and a very good criteria for ranking
Yes,
these films on a bracket.
And out of fairness, we use this the Rotten Tomato scores to seed the brackets without any kind of personal.
We should do a special
discoloration.
episode where we only use Metacritic.
So we're going to jump in, and tonight we're also introducing a play-in round because when we talk about ensemble movies, naturally we think of Christopher Guest's films and the ensemble work that he's done through the years. And instead of having Christopher Guest all through the bracket, we decided to do this play-in round with 4 of his films to kind of make it fair for the others.
Because it definitely is his bread and butter.
Yes, it is. So, first of all, we're going to be looking at, in the play-in round, from the year 2000.
The year 2000.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Best in Show with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 93%. That's directed by Christopher Guest, starring Christopher Guest, Eugene Levy, Fred Willard, Catherine O'Hara, Parker Posey, John Michael Higgins, Jennifer Coolidge, Michael McKeon, Jane Lynch, Bob Balaban, Jim Paddock, Michael Hitchcock, and Ed Begley Jr., among others.
Tonight, I'm going to be giving you one-sentence synopses.
Thank you for the brevity.
A behind-the-scenes look at a highly competitive and cutthroat world of dog shows through the eyes of a group of ruthless dog owners.
Thank you. And that's going head-to-head with 1996's Waiting for Guffman with a 91% Rotten Tomatoes score. Directed by Christopher Guest, starring the usual band of idiots, Christopher Guest, Eugene Levy, Parker Posey, Fred Willard, Catherine O'Hara, Bob Balaban, Deborah Thieker, Larry Miller, Michael Hitchcock, and Don Lake.
An aspiring director and the marginally talented amateur cast of a hokey small-town Missouri musical production go overboard when they learn that someone from Broadway will be in the audience.
All right. Guys?
This was a difficult one for me because I love all four of these movies. They're funny, they're
great.
smart, they're well done. I've seen them all many times. For me, the defining criteria for me was this: a mighty wind is blowing, blowing across the sea, blowing peace and freedom, blowing you and me.
The song's about farts, right?
Yeah.
Well,
what do you feel about
I don't
these
interpret it
two
that way.
movies?
Yep, we're in the wrong category.
I'm sorry. Did I go with the other matchup?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What are we doing?
Thanks for listening. Thanks for participating. Best in Show and Waiting for Guffman.
Best in Show because small town theater satirizes itself, much like heavy metal satirizes itself when we talk about Spinal Tap. So that one's easy for me. Best in Show all the way.
So Best in Show was actually the one of these that I had not seen until this afternoon.
Wow.
It's the freshest in my mind, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I was cracking up the whole time.
What did you
especially
think about
Parker
Parker
Posey.
Posey?
Yes. That was my favorite little
And
section.
what about
I
her
think.
countenance really stood out to you?
I didn't realize it was her at first with the braces
The
and
braces,
the mouth
so
thing.
that's my first fun fact of the night.
Yeah.
Parker Posey got real braces for this
Yeah.
role.
The other thing about Waiting for Guffman is oddly, and maybe not oddly when you think about it, there are lots of movies that use the meta thing of the stage. Horror movies, I've been noticed there are more than you would think of horror movies that have that sort of setup. So it's been played a bit. So I'm going to go with Best in Show.
I am also going with Best in Show because I love my dog and he would win.
All right. Well, then that settles it. My opinion doesn't matter. Best in Show. All right. Then we're going to jump over to the other play-in.
Correct.
We have 1984's This Is Spinal Tap, directed by Rob Reiner. It's got a 96% Rotten Tomatoes, starring Christopher Guest, Rob Reiner, Michael McKeon, Harry Shearer, Rick Parnell, Fran Drescher, Fred Willard, Paul Schaefer, Bruno Kirby, Billy Crystal, Tony Hendra, and June Chadwick,
Jesus.
among others. And that's just a great cast.
So Spinal Tap, or This Is Spinal Tap, one of England's loudest bands, is chronicled by film director Marty DeBerge on what proves to be a fateful tour. The actors were all competent musicians, and they actually are playing on the soundtrack.
Yes.
Nice.
A Mighty Wind from 2003. It's a mockumentary that captures the reunion of a 1960s folk trio, the Folksmen, as they prepare for a show at the town hall to memorialize a recently deceased concert promoter.
It's the same people we just talked about earlier: Christopher Guest, Eugene Levy, Michael McKeon, Catherine O'Hara, Harry Shearer, also in this one, Parker Posey, Bob Balaban, John Michael Higgins, Jane Lynch, and Jennifer Coolidge, among others.
I feel like I blew the wad on this one. Singing the song beforehand. I'll say
We
the
can
same thing
edit
again.
that and put it in right here.
No, we're going to let it die on the
This
vine.
this is Spinal Tap. Great movie, absolutely
Yes.
iconic. But like I said
Goes to
earlier,
11.
heavy metal satirizes itself.
Well,
The folk music
hair
scene
metal.
has not is not quite as ripe for that, and it's a great movie. All the performances are great. The soundtrack actually works as a soundtrack and not just as humor. But it's a funny movie through and through. A Mighty Wind might go pretty far in this tournament if it were up for me. To me,
Wow.
I like both of these a lot. Mighty Wind's great. However, I think This Is Spinal Tap definitely has more of the cultural cachet. It's kind of like the 1984 of satirical films, or in that sort of realm.
that's a fair point.
I'm gonna have to go with Spinal Tap because my boy from The Simpsons, Harry Shearer, plays a more prominent role in that film. However, in the early 1990s and again in the late 90s, early 2000s, Spinal Tap tour, Michael McKean, Harry Shearer, and Christopher Guest opened for themselves as the Folksmen and were booed off stage during the first act as people did not know or cared that the two bands had the same musicians.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
They were probably so proud when they got booed off the stage.
I'm going to go with Spinal Tap as well, Joey. I'm sorry, but Spinal Tap is the template. You have Tiny Stonehenge.
Mm-hmm.
You have
It goes to 11.
It goes to 11. The other reason, though, I got to give a ding on Mighty Wind is that it's borderline disqualified because it has two main characters. The romance between Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, and
That's fair.
will they, won't they kind of thing.
And
Joey's
also,
upset. I know Joey.
No.
And Joey's upset.
A Mighty Wind is a brilliant satire of the folk music scene, much like Spinal Tap does a very different scene.
And
but
it has its
it also
value.
works as a movie. Like
Yeah.
it's like the Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara's characters, Sylvia, and I can't remember his name.
It's okay.
It's a very poignant love story. In fact,
it's very
on
sweet.
top of
But
being
does that not only make Shawn's point that the focus is on those two characters and not the ensemble?
That's a fair point too, but I just want to say, Spinal Tap's going on. That's fine. This is a Derby movie, but for the
right.
record, Allie was going to side with me on this one.
All right, so we are jumping into the big bracket now, and we're going to take it down with the number 1 seed versus the number 16 seed. We're talking about Seven Samurai from 1954.
1954. Okay, I had 1957, but I knew that wasn't correct.
With a 100% Rotten Tomatoes, directed by Akira Kurosawa. Here we go. Let's butcher those names. Starring Toshiro Mifune,
Toshiro Mifune.
Mifune with a question mark at the end.
Takashi Shimura, Seiji Miyaguchi, Daisuke Kato, Isao Kamua, Yoshio Inaba, and Minoru Shaki.
You
I'm
fucking
having
nailed it.
I'm having first day of
Except for
class
the very
anxiety
first-
when I'm
the
looking
very
at the
first one
attendance
I had
roster.
to help you with. The rest of them, the other 6 samurai, you fucking killed it.
And that's. You want to go ahead and give your description on that one?
Yeah, man. Farmers from a village exploited by bandits hire a veteran samurai for protection, who himself gathers 6 other samurai to join him.
Okay. And that's going head to head with our number 16 seed from 1999, American Pie, with a 62% Rotten Tomatoes.
Jennifer Coolidge in here again.
Yes.
She might be the most represented
She's not.
actor.
We've done it.
So you actually did.
We've done
okay.
a count.
Okay.
It is Michael McKean.
Gotcha.
Directed by Paul Weitz, Jason Biggs, Sean William Scott, Allison Hannigan, Chris Klein, Tara
That's
Reid,
a murderer's row.
Eddie K. Thomas, Ian Nicholas, and Natasha Lyonne, and Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah, Stifler's mom.
Yep.
This put her on the map, baby.
It also put the phrase MILF on the
MILF.
map.
American Pie. 4 teenage boys enter a pact to lose their virginity by prom night. And it's very like, we will not go gently into the night. Who actually said that?
Dylan Thomas.
Dylan Thomas. So they do a whole soliloquy, and it's corny as hell, but there's some good parts to this movie.
All right, let's run it through the meat grinder. What do we got?
Nothing against American Pie. It's a very funny sex romp, teenage sex romp.
It's a romp.
It's up against one of the absolute treasures of world cinema that we'll talk about later. Nobody's voting for American Pie in this round.
I don't think so.
Right.
I'm Seven Samurai.
I have an argument.
Oh, here's an argument.
I love Kurosawa.
Yeah.
However,
There
Seven
are
Samurai I
7 to
like,
40
but it
teenage
is
boys.
fucking 3.5 hours long.
Okay.
And there are very slow parts in that movie.
But
Okay.
you go to
And
the
American
theater to see
Pie is a
3.5
fucking
hour
fun
movies.
movie. And I was, and Travis is around my age. I was like a junior, senior in high school when this came out, and it has nostalgic value built into it.
Shannon Elizabeth.
Yes.
The rest
And,
of us who had already
and
had
it is
sex.
actually a jewel of this genre, of the raunch genre. It's probably up there.
I
amongst
agree
the
with
best.
you.
Also,
I agree
in
with
the
you.
best year of cinema, 1999. Right?
Yes.
Travis?
By the way, Criterion Channel did a curated collection of
Oh, yeah.
1999 films recently.
stole that
After
from
that,
us,
yep.
yes.
mhm. So I'm voting for American Pie in an upset.
It's not an upset.
Mainly
because
just to
it's
fuck with Joey,
Clearly,
'cause
Seven
he's
clearly
Samurai.
pissed off
about
It's
this.
the by far the better movie.
Very good.
However, if you could make some correlations between the Seven Samurai and the characters in American Pie, you could call it American Seven Samurai.
That's a whole other episode that we should call in this essay. I will.
Okay, we can do that.
That's not the first time you've said that to something I said.
All right, so we're going to move on down the bracket. We're looking at the number 9 seed versus the number 8 seed. Crazy.
Okay, this is a tough one.
Because these are 93 and 95% rated movies on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 9 from 1993 with a 93% Rotten Tomatoes score. We're talking Dazed and Confused by director Richard Linklater.
Correct?
Starring Matthew McConaughey, Jason London, Parker Posey, Ben Affleck, Wiley Wiggins, Joey Lauren Adams, Rory Cochrane, Mila Jovovich, Adam Goldberg, Shawn Andrews, Marissa Ribisi, Sasha Jensen, and others.
All right, so the adventures of high school and junior high students on the last day of school in May 1976.
It's going up against the number 8 seed Glengarry Glen Ross from 1992 with a 95% Rotten Tomatoes score. Directed by James Foley, screenplay by David Mamet, starring Al Pacino, Jack Lemmon, Alec Baldwin, Kevin Spacey, Alan Arkin, Ed Harris, and Jonathan Pryce. My God,
I
what
mean,
a
that's
cast.
whew.
It's crazy.
And they all bring it in this thing.
4 teenage boys enter a pact. Wait, hold on.
4 old men make a pact now.
They kind of do.
Yeah.
An examination of the machinations, behind the scenes at a real estate office. ABC.
Yeah.
Always.
Be closing.
It's
Well,
a good
actually,
movie.
I love both of these movies. When I saw the matchup, I was like, damn.
Uh-huh.
Because
It's tough.
Yes. Because Dazed and Confused is probably my favorite of the high school hangout movies.
Okay.
Badass sound, classic rock soundtrack. The actors who got their start in that. I mean,
Yeah.
Richard Linklater. I mean, the choices
I
there
have a
are
question.
incredible.
Real quick. Does anybody know if Jeremy and Jason London have ever been in a movie together?
I don't think so.
I don't know, but I don't think so either. I can't think of one.
No.
Continue.
You could argue that there's a vignette quality, though, to Dazed and Confused. Now, Glengarry Glen Ross is probably one of my all-time favorite films. The dialogue from David Mamet is... And some little tidbits about this movie. The dialogue seems so naturalistic, and yet every and space in the dialogue is written into the script. And Jack Lemmon, when he talked
Much
about
like
the
this
movie...
podcast.
Jack Lemmon, when he talked about the movie, talked about how that would, actors just take for granted you memorize the lines or whatever, but that was actually one of the harder movies he did as far as having to memorize the lines because every, part of it was written in there. But I thought the actors, and that could come off really poorly because in the hands of bad actors, it could be overwritten, or it could end up being overwritten and they might not have the chops to pull it off. This cast, though, does pull it off. Jack Lemmon, this is one of my favorite performances by any actor ever. Jack Lemmon as the downtrodden salesman who's on the outs trying to make the sale, desperate because we don't get a lot of detail about it, but apparently his daughter is ill or something. She's in the hospital. He needs some money to break in. Al Pacino is kind of this slick guy who, he's almost like a preacher when he's talking to when he's trying to make his sales pitch. fantastic movie. And one thing that sometimes plays that get turned into movies don't work as well as a movie. 12 Angry Men had that quality, and I'll mention something about why that works as a movie later. But in Glengarry Glen Ross, one thing that was cool about that was the use of color in that film.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
neons, the constricted space, and the way that that's used to give the sense of claustrophobia.
And that's one of the things that translated from the play to
Right.
the... I was actually fortunate enough to see this movie as a play, not like the big Broadway production, but like down in Charleston. I
Right.
saw the movie as a play, and
Oh, wow.
it was fantastic.
Yep.
And it was at one of those cool theaters where they would let you have beer.
I'm going with Glengarry Glen Ross as much as I love Dazed and Confused, but that's my pick.
All right, well, I have to go with Dazed and Confused for my vote, but this was the year that my own mother, my beloved mother, graduated from high school. So she was the age of the people who are the characters in this film. Reportedly, 1/6 of the budget was spent on acquiring the rights to the 70s pop hits, and also when the kids were building their paddles in the wood shop.
You're talking about Glengarry Glen Ross, yeah.
Oh. Nailed it. When the kids are building their paddles, the sleeping teacher in the shop is the actual real teacher at the school. For Glengarry Glen Ross, co-star Jack Lemmon said the cast was the greatest acting ensemble he had ever been a part of. This is also director James Foley and Alec Baldwin's favorite film of their own. During the filming, members of the cast who weren't required to be on set certain days would show up anyway to watch the other actors' performance.
Yep.
Joey.
This was also a very tough one for me. Glengarry Glen Ross is a great movie for all the reasons that Todd so passionately put forth. But Dazed and Confused is a very good movie, too.
Mm-hmm.
I think it transcends the high school hangout genre and is perhaps the definitive document of that
70s
genre.
stoner high school movie.
It was kind of a wash, so my deciding factor for me was if we're going to put one of these on right now, which one do I want to watch? And it's Dazed and Confused.
Fuck yes.
Ooh, okay.
Incorrect. Correct answer was Glengarry.
Well,
Shawn?
I'm kidding.
all right. So the thing about Dazed and Confused is that Richard Linklater did this with virtual unknowns, people who some of them weren't even actors,
It kind of brought us one of the greatest modern actors
and
of
it
our
did,
time.
and it did.
Well,
It
the
was-
all right. Matthew McConaughey, like cliche. That's where it
but
comes
was
from.
born here.
Yeah.
So, and it definitely encapsulated that high school experience. I mean, I always think about that asshole coach.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, I want to see that in my office in the Monday morning.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That is just so typical. But then
Very relatable.
and so he got these great performances out of these virtual unknowns.
Yeah.
And then Glengarry Glen Ross is just so loaded with talent. It's just like,
the fucking dream team
Yeah,
of
it was
actors
so beautifully
in
done.
that year.
I guess I have to apply my own litmus test to it, though. In either of these films, if you remove one of the actors, who topples? And I think with Dazed and Confused, you can remove some of the actors and the movie wouldn't suffer.
That's
So because of
That's
that,
true,
I'm
man.
going with Glengarry Glen Ross, which means we have a tie.
Wow.
Allie gets to weigh in. The mic is yours.
Interesting.
Okay, so I will confess I have not seen Glengarry Glen Ross, which is a bad thing because, as I've noted, I have a theater background. I'm familiar with the story. Dazed and Confused has the advantage of being highly relatable because we've all been to high school.
Yep.
Maybe not that era, maybe
Well,
not that
some
thing.
of us have been to high school.
A lot of us have
Some
been
of
to
us
high
didn't
school.
learn how to read.
Glengarry Glen Ross, and I know that it does have this cadre of excellent actors, but if you're going to make a movie that's deeply engaging about the background of real estate, I mean, how good does that script have to be?
Really good.
Right? So there is that point that, you can take some of the actors out of Dazed and Confused. Again, very tough bracket. I'm going to go with Glengarry Glen Ross.
Oh, wow.
Woo!
Advancing.
Advancing.
Without even having
Sorry,
seen it.
Mama.
Nice.
I didn't mean to make you cry.
To echo what Joey
I hate
said,
to see
though,
Dazed and Confused.
I
go,
would
though.
watch Dazed and Confused right now if given
Yeah,
the choice.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's also always on TBS.
Right.
Okay, so we're jumping into the next bracket. That one was a toughie. It's always that 8 and 9.
The 5-12 that's coming up is also difficult.
Yep.
It's pretty good.
All right, so number 5 is from 2019. It's got a
this is
97% Rotten Tomatoes. We're talking about Knives Out, directed by Rian Johnson,
The first of a trilogy, right?
starring Ana de Armas, Daniel Craig, Chris
my girl.
Evans, Christopher Plummer, Catherine Langford, Toni Collette, Michael Shannon, Jamie Lee Curtis, Don Johnson, Lakeith Stanfield, Joey Gordon, Levi's, and Emily Blunt, among others. And that's going to go head-to-head with our number 12 seed from 2008 with an 82% Rotten Tomatoes score, Tropic Thunder, directed by Ben Stiller,
Yes.
starring Ben Stiller,
Uh-huh.
Robert
And
Downey Jr.,
amongst others.
Yeah.
Jack Black, Tom Cruise, Jay Baruchel, Nick Nolte, Steve Coogan, Danny McBride, Matthew McConaughey, Brandon T. Jackson, and Bill Hader.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a Matthew McConaughey crossover here.
Yeah.
Who was Matthew McConaughey in Tropic Thunder?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. So, quick synopses. Knives Out, a detective investigates the death of the patriarch of an eccentric, combative family. Tropic Thunder. Through a series of freak occurrences, a group of actors shooting a big-budget war movie are forced to become the soldiers they are portraying.
Both of these movies are great. So I'll start with Knives Out. A super sophisticated send-up, similar to a movie we'll talk about later, Clue, that takes a familiar genre.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Takes a familiar genre and just heightens the sophistication of it, the dialogue.
It's a send-up of a murder mystery, but it also works as a damn fine murder mystery.
No,
at
it
the
is.
same
It is.
time.
I mean, I'm not.
That's
no,
a,
I'm
that's
not.
a
I'm
tricky
How
tight
do
wire.
we feel
It is,
about
it
Daniel
is.
Craig's southern accent?
I have things to say about that.
I do
yeah,
too.
Yeah. And also, was it supposed to be bad? But that I've heard this
I
discussion.
think you
but-
mispronounced gay.
Ah!
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
Well, in the sequel in Glass Onion, it comes out that he is married to Hugh Grant's character.
Yes.
so,
Yes.
Yes.
He's gay.
Yeah.
Super gay.
But you don't know that in the first one.
And
But
did
you know.
and did Ryan Johnson even know it until he wrote Glass Onion? But anyway, Tropic Thunder though, it is the last of a type of movie in that Blazing Saddles category that could no longer be made as
can't.
at least
So-
not as a popular
So
movie.
the southern accent of Blanc in Knives Out is not nearly as egregious as Robert Downey Jr.'s blackface in Tropic Thunder. However, at the time,
Yeah.
it fucking worked.
I think it
It's
still works.
the only example that I can cite of blackface that actually still makes me laugh. and I
Because
don't-
Because
he's
it's
not doing blackface in a demeaning way.
Not at
He's
all.
doing blackface in a way that makes fun of like
He's
that
demeaning
mentality.
blackface. It's blackface
And
to
it
demean
works, and it's
blackface.
not offensive in that way.
Yeah.
Right.
I get that I don't get to decide if that's offensive or not, but
Right. We're not the
intellectually
we're not the deciders on
speaking,
this.
it's a different thing than like
Yep.
minstrel style blackface.
But I think one thing we can all agree on is that may be the last film, at least that was released for popular release, that was able to get away with
Oh,
something.
God, yeah.
You cannot
Also, Joey, I thought you were gonna
100%. That's
say
DOA in the
minstrel
production.
bleeding.
Jesus. Child.
And the movie is just absolutely hysterical.
It is.
And it's not just pure parody. I mean, it's saying something like just what we just discussed about the blackface has some sort of commentary
Yeah,
built into it.
There's layers to the meaning. Can we talk about Tom Cruise's character?
I didn't when I first saw that movie.
I
So
didn't
they
either.
underplayed the fact
Yeah.
they didn't advertise that he was in it. Kind of similar to what they tried to do with
The
Nick
character is
Cage
called Les
with
Grossman.
long legs. But yeah,
Yes.
And
I
so
was-
Ben Stiller said nearly all aspects of the Les Grossman character were developed by Tom Cruise, including the dancing and the look of the makeup. Stiller said that in addition to this, more obvious makeup effects applied to Cruise's face and head and the extra hair on his chest and arms.
Yeah.
Cruise also decided to play the character wearing oversized prosthetic hands.
I've already made my decision. Tropic Thunder, just because the fact that it's the last
Okay.
kind of movie that could do that.
It was a very difficult one for me too. I think that arguably there is if we're talking about ensemble cast movies, arguably there is a weak link in Knives Out, and it's Daniel Craig and that horrible low country accent that does not work. But upon subsequent viewings of the movie, I think that it's sort of like it's a Technicolor version of that accent because it's
Bad
this-
on
it's,
purpose, as I
in some
indicated
ways a
earlier.
send up of the genre, and detectives
Very Agatha
always
Christie.
yeah.
Very Poirot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Knives Out here just because I think I just like it better.
Okay.
All right.
No, yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna go with your test, not the more educated test, the one where if I wanted to watch it right now,
Uh-huh.
I'm watching Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm watching Tropic
Probably,
Thunder.
that's probably true.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's my vote.
All right, then it's to me then because I consider Tropic Thunder to be the more forgettable movie than Knives Out.
Oh, wow.
In
Okay.
terms of
Interesting.
Is it
plot
recency
points.
bias?
Nope. It's in terms of plot points, and Knives Out is just plot driven. But we're talking about ensemble films here, and what ensemble works the best. The Knives Out ensemble for me is strongest because you have all of these family dynamics working against each other and together, and
Which really works.
and it really does. And the casting of each of those characters, I think, was well thought out. And that's not to undermine Tropic Thunder. I think Tropic Thunder was really good. And kind of take a look at Ben Stiller's directing today. I mean, he's really good. And
Yeah.
so this was kind of like a nice introduction to him as a director.
Well, everyone appreciates Cable Guy now after it got panned when it was out at the time. But
So where am I going? I'm gonna
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
all right.
I'm gonna go with Knives Out. So we have another tie. It's to Allie.
Ooh, interesting.
Golly.
Listening to the arguments that have been presented in the room, clearly two very strong films, two very interesting films in a very different genre. I think that what I'm hearing and what's swaying me is the idea of the layered nuance and the
Yeah.
fact that there's additional commentary, and I feel like it was also a tighter ensemble in Tropic Thunder, which may be an upset, but that's
It
where
is.
I'm going.
All right,
Okay.
there you go. Tropic.
So before we move on, can I give my fun facts about Knives Out?
You may not. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Do it. I'm kidding.
All right. So number one, Jacob's line, "You had sex with my grandpa, you dirty anchor baby," was improvised by Jaden Martell. It was originally lost in the scene since multiple characters were talking and yelling. Michael Shannon noticed this and approached Ryan Johnson, telling him that Martell had a killer line, so they made sure to go back and capture it. It was Don Johnson's idea for his character to hand the empty plate to Marta as if she was the maid during the immigration conversation.
Very nice.
Yeah. I mean, that is a great movie. I would have had no problem
All right.
without moving on.
This is the very last pairing in the bracket. We're going with number 13's seating from 1996 with an 81% Rotten Tomatoes. We're talking about Scream. Directed by Wes Craven, starring Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Skeet Ulrich, Matthew Lillard, Drew Barrymore, Rose McGowan, Jamie Kennedy, and Liv Schreiber. And that's going to go up against the winner of our play-in round. We're talking about Best in Show. Travis, give us the one-liner synopsis.
A year after the murder of her mother, a teenage girl is terrorized by a masked killer who targets her and her friends by using scary movies as part of a deadly game.
Scream. This one's a little bit more difficult for me than I think Shawn envisioned. Scream did breathe new life, for better or worse, into the slasher genre when it came out in the 90s. The Scream franchise continues on to the present
Yeah, and
day.
it
It was
really should
decidedly
have.
mixed results.
They should have just stopped with the first one.
Most of them are pretty good.
No, 2 and 3 are
think of several
absolutely
that are
We
horrendous
digress,
pieces of
but
shit.
I'm voting for
Fucking
Best in
dog
Show
water.
here. It's the superior movie. Nothing against Scream. Again, it breathed new life into the slasher genre. It's a fine movie for what it is, but I'm going with Best in Show.
This one was a tough one for me. The tiebreaker for me is my love of horror and the meta elements in that movie. I thought were really, I won't say groundbreaking because Wes Craven's New Nightmare sort of did a similar thing. But nevertheless, I'm going to go with Scream for my pick.
Travis.
Hold on. Back the truck up. You like Wes Craven's New Nightmare?
I think he's talking about the meta quality of.
No, I just meant that he had done something
No,
similar with
yes.
the quality.
Franchise?
He refined it though in Scream.
I think you're conflating Wes Craven's New Nightmare with the shitty reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street.
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm
because
not.
then you're just wrong about that. Because the New Nightmare is great.
All right. Fair
Another
enough.
episode.
So at
I
the
do like New
beginning of the
Nightmare, but I
movie
think he
Scream-
refined it in Scream.
At the beginning of the movie Scream, Drew Barrymore's parents come home to find something is wrong. Her father tells her to go to the Mackenzies, which is a reference to the original Halloween. That's what our Carrie Strode, main character,
I never caught
Laurie
that.
Strode tells the babysitter. Also, Courtney Cox approached the production to pursue the movie role. She was interested in playing a, quote, bitch character to offset her nice Friends character. Did you guys think she was nice?
I
in
never thought
Friends?
she was that nice in
Yeah.
Friends.
Between Scream and Best in Show?
Yeah.
Obviously Best in Show.
Yeah, Best in Show.
It's a...
Oh wow,
it's-
okay. I thought there might be a little more. I
It's
don't
way
mind that,
better.
but I thought there might be a
No way.
little bit of. Okay.
So that does it for the top part of the bracket. We'll come back with the second part of the bracket after the break, but not before we say, let's all go to the lobby.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Get ourselves some Tropicalia.
Yum, yum. It's time for a tasty and refreshing snack. We promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go.
Are we back?
And we're back.
We're back, baby!
And what do we like to do when we come back from break?
I think it's a beer check-in.
Beer check-in. And you bought an on-theme beer?
I guess.
And talk
kind
about
of.
how he peed in the yard.
reference to the thing we were getting from the lobby.
Well, that and we were talking about Tropic Thunder.
We talked about Tropic Thunder. We are drinking some Tropicalia,
Yes.
which is from Athens, Georgia. And for fucking years, you had to go there to get it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And now they're distributing to basically everybody in the bar getting tipsy.
What do you think, guys?
It's a little different.
What do you mean by different?
I don't know. It doesn't. It's. I don't know how to.
It's a West Coast IPA versus a hazy New England.
I've always liked Tropicalia. I
Yeah.
kind of consider it like a palate cleanser IPA.
To be
That's a
fair,
good way
I
to put
did
it.
buy
enjoy
this at a gas station.
Yeah,
Which
I will,
just speaks to their distribution.
I will order Tropicalia at a bar when I want to wash
Yeah.
a big New England IPA off my face.
And then PBR.
And PBR, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're diving right into the second half,
Mm-hmm.
and we're leading off with one of our play-ins. It's going to be the what we're considering the number 3 seed. This is Spinal Tap.
Mm-hmm.
It's going head-to-head with 1985's Clue, with a Rotten Tomatoes score of 71, which
Mhm.
is low.
So they are remaking Clue.
Well, it's too bad. Unfortunately. It's directed by Jonathan Lynn. It stars Madeline Kahn, Tim Curry,
Never heard of
Leslie Ann Warren, Colleen Camp, Christopher Lloyd, Michael McKeon, Martin Mull, rest in peace, and Eileen Brennan.
So Clue, 1985. You know, it's based on a board game. Or is the board game based on the movie? I think it's based on a board game because
No, the board game.
Yeah,
was
the board
a
game's
lot-
way
Yeah.
older, yeah.
in England, what
It's
is
probably
it
one
called?
of. Yeah.
In England, what do they call the game Clue? Anybody?
Biscuit?
Cluedo. It's called Cluedo.
Do they
Cluedo.
really?
Yes, Cluedo.
Huh. They call cigarettes fags,
In terms
too.
I'm gonna bleep you for that.
In
They
terms
do.
of,
I'm just saying. It's true.
it is true. 6 guests are anonymously invited to a strange mansion for dinner. But after their host is killed, they must cooperate with the staff to identify the murderer as the bodies pile up.
I'll lead off on this one. I like Clue. It's a fun movie. It's if you take away the Hasbro tie-in, the board game tie-in, it's I think fairly standard, over the top kind of spoof of a whodunit up against Spinal Tap, which even though I'm kind of still angry that A Mighty Wind didn't get
This
into
should not
this
affect your
slot,
decision on this.
Spinal Tap is absolutely iconic, and I'm voting for it over Clue. Nothing against Clue, but
Very
Spinal
good.
Tap takes this
Todd?
one.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on board with Joey. I mean, now I will say that Clue probably is the most successful board game to movie, although that is a very low bar.
The Scrabble documentary, does that count? Because that shit is...
Just wait till you see my Candyland script.
Monopoly the movie?
Obviously, a very low bar. That could be.
We're
Good.
living
I mean,
it.
they could make a
Right.
good movie of Monopoly, though.
Yeah.
Jumanji.
Anyway, going
Hello?
with.
Jumanji?
Yeah.
All right,
Is that a board game?
No,
Okay.
it was
In the movie it is,
fictional.
yeah.
Travis?
I think that the movie in this case predated the board, or the movie was before the board game.
No. Yeah.
I do have a fun fact about Clue. 3 endings were shot, and a different one was shown at each theater. All 3 are included on the video. The DVD, however, aside from all 3 endings, also offers the option to play the movie with one randomly selected rendering.
Let me weigh in for just a second.
Yes.
That's a cool idea in the streaming era.
It works
But-
on the DVD with your
Yeah,
remote.
Yeah, but in the theatrical release, no, fuck you. I'm not paying
Well,
3 times to see the movie.
In
You know what I
some
mean?
cities,
Exactly.
newspaper ads indicated which version, ending A, ending B, or ending C, was being shown at each theater.
Which seems like a ploy to get people into the theater to see it multiple times. A pretty cheap one.
Yeah, they want the money.
Yeah.
Also, the color of each character's car is the same color as their playing piece in the game. As much as I love the movie Clue, I have to agree that Spinal Tap is a superior ensemble film.
I have to comment about something that's going on in this audio medium. I have a pickle beer.
Why do I not have
Because you
pickle
were
beer?
still drinking. It's Donna's pickle beer, and Todd.
It's the best.
Todd poured a healthy pour,
And?
knowing that he's not big on pickles.
Why
I was
did you
trying
do
to give
that?
it because I was trying to give it a fair shot.
No,
Because
not-
pickle
not for you.
flavor is not the same thing as I do not like pickles in general, and the flavored. I had
Why-
do y'all remember? Or did anyone get the flavored, the pickle flavored Gatorade that they were doing for a while?
Fuck
That-
yeah, it was
oh.
delicious.
I bought one by
More
accident.
electrolytes. It's what plants crave.
I bought one by accident one time because it had a similar color to another variety, and
I am a huge fan of the movie Clue, but it does not stand up against This Is Spinal Tap. It's legendary, and it cannot possibly hold a candle. All right, next up in the bracket, we have got our number 11 seed, ironically, from the year 2001 with an 83% Rotten Tomatoes. We're talking about Ocean's 11. Directed by Steven Soderbergh, starring George Clooney, Julia Roberts, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, Andy Garcia, Bernie Mac, Quinn Chabot, Casey Affleck, Carl Reiner, Scott Kahn, and Eddie Jemison.
So it bears mentioning this is a remake of the original film with the Brat Pack people, right?
Yes.
Rat Pack.
the
not
rat.
Brat Pack.
The Rat Pack.
Danny Ocean, a gangster, rounds up a gang of associates to stage a sophisticated and elaborate casino heist, which involves robbing 3 Las Vegas casinos simultaneously during a popular boxing event.
It's going head to head with our number 6 seed, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. from 1975 with a 96% Rotten Tomatoes score, directed by Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones, starring Terry Jones, John Cleese, Eric Idle, Terry Gilliam, Graham Chapman, and Michael Palin.
For something completely different. King Arthur and his knights of the Round Table embark on a surreal low-budget search
'Twas only a flesh wound.
for the Holy Grail, encountering many very silly obstacles. Funds earned by Pink Floyd's album Dark Side of the Moon went towards funding Monty Python's Holy Grail. The band were such fans of the show, they would halt recording sessions just to watch the Flying Circus show.
Cool.
And then,
In
of
fact,
course, Terry
didn't George-
Gilliam animated the sequences from The Wall as well.
There you go.
Yeah.
Didn't George Harrison?
As well.
Okay.
That actually is Life of Brian.
Right.
In fact, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Genesis all contributed to this movie's budget.
Those Monty Python movies, as a high school nerd, we didn't have an AV club at my high school, but we had a group that was AV clubbish, and so Monty Python and the Holy Grail was, these were beloved films among our group. And so, sorry, Ocean's 11, but I got to go with that.
Full disclosure, this is the one film on this list that I have not seen, Ocean's 11. But I'm familiar with it, and I feel like I know what it is. And correct me if I'm wrong. No, I've seen Holy Grail many times.
No, I mean either one of the Ocean's 11s.
Like the original Rat Pack version or the newer one.
No, it's possible that I've seen the Rat Pack one, but I don't think so. But I have not seen this one. I feel like I know this movie, though. It's a big, star-studded, turn of the century. Can we say that now?
Yes.
Hollywood production, heist film. I'm sure it's very slick.
It's fun.
Well done. It's a good movie. I'm sure it's well done. I almost was going to watch it just because I want to watch everything that we talk about, but there's no way it was going to beat the fucking Holy Grail. I mean,
it's a heist, it's a heist
I didn't
movie.
even bother to watch
It's
it.
a heist
Holy
movie.
Grail all the
You
way.
could interchange this with the Italian Job.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Travis, am I to assume that you're going Holy Grail? Because I'm going Holy Grail.
Absolutely.
All right.
Monty Python all the way. I feel that if they needed to add another Python, Steve Coogan is
Steve
up for the
Coogan was
job.
good. Yeah.
Well, and the Jenga standard we know doesn't work for Ocean's 11 because it's a remake. So we know that we could get other actors to play these other people.
All right, moving on. The number 7 seed is from 1987 with a 96% Rotten Tomatoes score. The Princess Bride,
Directed by
Rob Reiner, starring Carrie Elways, Robin Wright, Billy Crystal, Mandy Patinkin, Wallace Shawn, Fred Savage, Chris Sarandon, Chris Guest, Andre the Giant, Carol Kane, and Peter Falk.
Now you kind of glossed over Chris Guest.
Christopher
Guest is the
Six-fingered man.
Six-fingered man.
You had to count on your hand to do it.
Well, I also have 7 fingers, and I was just making sure I wasn't skipping one. A bedroom boy's grandfather.
Bedridden, I think you mean.
I think you got the wrong movie.
Bedroom Boys or something totally different.
Let me restart. A bedridden boy's grandfather reads him the story of a farm boy turned pirate who encounters numerous obstacles, enemies, and allies in his quest to be reunited with his true love.
Thank you for the synopsis. It's going head-to-head with our number 10 seed from 1985 with an 89% Rotten Tomatoes score, The Breakfast Club, directed by John Hughes, starring Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, Ali Sheedy, Anthony Michael Hall, Emilio Estevez, Paul Gleason, and John Capellos.
5 high school students meet in Saturday detention. In my high school, it's called Saturday School, and discover how they have a great deal more in common than they originally thought.
I had a very animated conversation with my wife about this one earlier, about this matchup. We talked about all of them, and this was one that we were both kind of torn on. The Breakfast Club, again, is it's a great, I mean, I'm not saying it's a great movie. It's a good movie, but there are many similar '80s teen blockbuster kind of movies, there are not very many low-key fantasy epics. Most fantasy that we see on Hollywood screens is huge, over-the-top, effects-driven extravaganza.
Now,
This one is, a very low-key kind of fable. It's a very, very good one. It's absolutely iconic with that line about "my name is," and what is it?
Inigo Montoya.
I was gonna
My
name.
my name is Inigo Montoya.
Thank
killed
you.
my father. Prepare to die.
Thank you both. I mumbled that one. Princess Bride for this one for me.
All right, Todd, what you got?
This was very tough.
Very.
Prince Bride also scripted by the great William Goldman, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and a ton of other classic movies. He also this was actually a book before it was a movie that William Goldman also wrote and adapted. I actually read that book in college class. But anyway, Breakfast Club is iconic, of course. Some people might argue it's a little cliche in the way that it breaks down the characters.
But it's only a cliche
But
because so many
because
other
it's
movies
true.
have
Yeah.
copied it.
Correct. And also because there's some truth behind the cliches. I probably would watch The Breakfast Club before I would watch The Princess Bride, even though I like The Princess Bride a lot. So I'm going to go with Breakfast Club.
We're no longer friends because I'm going Princess Bride
That's
all fucking day long. We are friends still, though, Todd. I was just joking.
Oh, God, thank God.
So some fun facts. In The Breakfast Club, Bender, his flinch when Vernon fakes a punch, it was genuine. He actually thought that Paul Gleason was going to hit him in the face. And
A notorious
for
method
The Princess
actor.
Bride, this is probably the biggest, most well-known piece of trivia. When Andre the Giant's character was catching Robin Wright out of the window, even though his character Fezzik was supposed to be of enormous strength in the movie, he actually had really bad back problems at the time.
Yep.
And he had to wear braces, and
Yep.
they had her on wires as she came down. But yeah, my vote is obviously
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride.
Okay.
Also, there was supposed to be several sequels to The Breakfast Club, but a lot of people attribute the fact that that didn't happen to Judd Nelson,
The Lunch
and
Club,
John
the
Hughes.
Supper Club.
Well, yeah, exactly. But the tumultuous, aggressive relationship between Judd Nelson and John Hughes, and also he didn't get along too great with Molly Ringwald.
Okay. I'm going to go Princess Bride as well.
No problem with that.
I do love The Breakfast Club, and I do love the fan theory that it's all in Ali Sheedy's head.
Oh, that's
Did we do that one on the
I didn't know
fan
that.
episode?
That all of the
Theory
archetypes are just that. They're her vision of all the people she goes to school with because she
And
has no
Oh, yeah,
friends.
yeah.
New
Each piece
episode
of
fan
dandruff
theory.
is one of them.
And that would also make sense why a lot of the characters are just cliched version.
Yeah, it's a clever theory. All right, so we're gonna say Princess Bride for that one. We're moving on, and we're in the bottom of the bracket. Actually, the top and bottom of this one. This is the number 15 seed. It is from 1983 with a 69% Rotten Tomatoes. It's the,
All right.
Okay.
It's The Big Chill, directed by Lawrence Kasdan, starring Glenn Close, William Hurt, Kevin Kline, Tom Berenger, Jeff Goldblum, Meg Tilly, Kevin Costner, Joe Beth Williams. Huh?
Who's in that?
Kevin Costner.
Okay, well that applies to
Some of your trivia. Joe Beth Williams, Aruga, and Mary Kay Ploss.
So, The Big Chill. A group of 7 former college friends gather for a weekend reunion at a South Carolina vacation home after the funeral of another of their college friends.
Thank you.
So the trivia, flashback scenes with Kevin Costner as Alex Marshall, the funeral of the friend, were filmed, then cut out of the movie. Costner is still visible as the body being dressed at the beginning of the film.
Interesting, and that was definitely a good choice to not have that character appear in the film, I think.
And that's going head to head with our number 2 seed from 1957 with a 100% Rotten Tomatoes score, 12 Angry Men, directed by Sidney
Lumet, right?
I say Lumet, but I don't know.
I think that I looked it up one time for a podcast, and it was Lumet.
I've never known if I was saying it right.
Yeah.
It stars Henry Fonda, Lee J. Cobb, Joseph Sweeney, Martin Balsam, Ed Begley, Jack Klugman, Jack Warden, John Fiedler, Edward Binns, Robert Weber, George Vaskovec. Honorable mentions goes to Rudy Bond and John Savoca, the judge and the accused.
The jury in a New York City murder trial is frustrated by a single member whose skeptical caution forces them to more carefully consider the evidence before jumping to a hasty verdict. Now, before we get into the voting, I do have to mention a couple of fun facts about this film. Director Sidney Lumet had actors all stay in the same room for several hours on end and do their lines over and over without filming them. This was to give them a real taste of what it would be like to be cooped up in a room with the same people. Also, because the film failed to make a profit, Henry Fonda never received his deferred salary. Despite this setback, he always regarded this film as one of his favorite films of his own, along with Grapes of Wrath and the Oxbow incident.
So, can I... This is like Glenn Ross on my Mount Rushmore movie. Well, more than 4, but Mount Rushmore-ish movies.
So all of your Mount Rushmores are like angry.
I would probably have I would probably have 3
much
Mount
like Mount
Rushmores
Rushmore.
together. And yes, I get it's yeah. Actually, I didn't even think of that. These are all. There's not one woman in
I
any of
almost
these movies,
disqualified this movie because
It
we
does not
have.
pass the
However,
Bechdel test.
they are products of the time, and therefore, anyway.
Give Allie a spot.
I'm just saying, it is also based on a play, and new versions
Yes.
of the play are called 12 Angry People,
Right.
which do now have women in the cast.
And
Has
not and,
anybody
and
seen
there
the
aren't
made
just
for TV one, the 12. Sam Rockwell, he dances on the table.
Have you seen Amy Schumer's version?
No.
It's really good.
well, different country. I mean, different country.
yes, I did.
There's
I
a
did
Japanese adaptation of this. There's all
We
kinds of
digress.
adaptations.
We're talking about
Yeah.
this movie.
I almost disqualified this one because we have recently talked about this movie at great length on the
Okay.
show.
Was that part of that?
Huh?
Was that part of
Yes, you
I didn't
were.
talk about this
Okay.
movie.
I had to clean up after you.
Oh wow. Well,
Sunglasses.
get ready again, pal.
Koozie.
Get the
I
get
think
this
I left my wallet.
get this
Let me-
squeegee out.
Let me get my vote out of the way before Todd.
We already know Todd's. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this is another slam dunk for me. Nothing against the Big Chill; it's fine, but I think that there are many more. There are many better depictions of the hippie ideal dying, hippies becoming yuppies, and feeling certain ways about it. There's many more compelling versions of that.
Deer Hunter.
Starting all the way back at Gimme Shelter, which was
Ooh.
the death of the hippie dream. But 12 Angry Men is perhaps the quintessential ensemble cast movie. Most of this movie takes place in one little room with these 12 men, and a lot of times, we talked about this earlier, a lot of times when this happens, when there's a movie adapted from a play, it gets very stagey.
Yeah.
This one does not.
Yep.
Because the camera is moving in
Yep.
and out and seamlessly around the room the entire time. It's a masterclass. I don't know that there's anything on this list that can take it out.
All right.
And it gets
It's
this
also the
vote
only
all day.
movie on the list where they tell you how many people are in the ensemble.
And the gender, and what their feelings are.
All right. In the interest of time, I'm going to say 12 Angry Men for me.
Yep.
And Travis.
Oh shit, man! I gotta go with the Big Chill
That's
because
fine.
it's way more chill.
All right, you go, boy.
I'm over the boomer angst. So let's. And also, is this a low key chick flick? Because there is dancing in the kitchen.
You say that, term chick
What?
flick as if it were pejorative.
I think that's probably you're gonna get canceled.
As I say,
There's a song, and then everyone starts.
that doesn't
dancing.
mean it's a
all
chick
this
flick.
shit.
dude.
I know.
They-
It's a joke.
all right, we are in the Elite 8 stage. We're going to go through these rather quickly unless somebody has a major poignant statement to make, but it's mostly arguments only at this point. From our number 1 seed, Seven Samurai, we're going up against the number 8 seed, Glengarry Glen Ross.
Damn, that's the final.
This is two heavyweights.
No, it's not the final. Okay.
This is two heavyweights.
Maybe I should go first because I'm gonna. It might go. It might be a slam dunk after I go. So I'm gonna go with Glengarry Glen Ross because again, I'm a fan of tight editing, and I think Kurosawa does a better job in other movies of tightening up what he does. And Joey, you actually agreed with me when we watched this movie together for the first time that there were lots of lulls
Well, keep it
in,
focused on the
in
ensemble,
Seven Samurai.
too. I mean, talk
Yes.
about the ensemble.
And-
what we're not versed as well as in Japanese cinema as we
Right.
are in American cinema.
Yeah.
So I think this movie
Speak for
may
yourself.
Well,
okay. Well, it may be at a disadvantage in this case.
I'm actually going to agree with you, Todd. And I'm picking Glengarry Glen Ross in the upset. Seven Samurai is a better film, but it does lag in a little bit. But because of the criteria here, there's one performance in the Seven Samurai that sticks out.
Mifune.
And it's Mifune's bare-assed for most of the movie
Yeah,
performance, and he's just unhinged, and you can't take your eyes off of him. He's great.
He is the Nick Cage.
The
of-
other six
Japanese
samurai
cinema.
don't really make much of an impression on me years later, but Glengarry Glen Ross as an ensemble film much better. So I agree with you actually.
Travis,
Thank you.
I'm going Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
It was so influential on the new Hollywood movement. Not just that film, but Kurosawa in general.
Yeah.
And those are the movies that I was raised on. So I'm going Seven Samurai.
I was inclined to sweep Samurai all the way through to the finals, but in considering the ensemble nature of it, I'm going to go Glengarry Glen Ross.
Okay.
Wow.
So that's an upset.
Yeah, it is by definition
right,
an
yeah.
ensemble film, but like that one performance is the only
It
one
is.
that I remember.
Yeah. Right.
The rest of them I'm sure they were fine, but they don't stick out in your memory. In Glengarry Glen
Yeah.
Ross, everybody
Every
puts on a
single one.
masterclass.
Their personalities, their characters are so diverse.
And the
And
Seven
the-
Samurai
diverse.
obviously is a great film. It's a
And-
treasure of world cinema, blah, blah, blah.
And
but,
the fact that the script for Mammoth was so idiosyncratic, you had to have perfect people in each role.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, the upset, Tropic Thunder
Yeah. Versus.
versus Best in Show.
Oh, this is rough.
I'm going Best in Show simply because I like it better. I love that movie. It's like comfort food for me. Tropic Thunder is great for all the reasons that we discussed about. It's hilarious. Best in Show for me.
I'm going to say Best in Show for the same reasons Joey did. Also, just the fabric of that ensemble cast is so tightly woven that I don't think that there's anything that Tropic Thunder can bring to the table that shreds it.
I'm going to go
also
Tropic
going
Thunder.
Best in Show.
Oh.
Sorry, Best in Show for me because it has no controversy.
There we go.
There's nothing that you could.
See, that's why Tropic Thunder.
Oh.
I was going to do for the suspense, I was going to go just
Let me
so
ask
we
you
could get
this.
the,
Without the controversy, does Tropic Thunder have as much gravity?
No, it does
Probably
not.
not.
The reason we're still talking about it is because we half cringe about
Yes.
Robert Downey.
Oh no,
Robert
it's
Downey Jr.'s
it's
performance.
well, that's not
No,
the only
there's
reason. It's still a highly
There's some good
hilarious,
in that
entertaining
movie.
film.
It's a hilarious movie.
even without the
But
controversy.
it's hilarious in a different kind of way than Best in Show.
All right.
I got
Here
no
we
problem
go.
with Best in Show.
All right, we're about to make some nerds mad. The next bracket, we have got the number 3 seed. This is Spinal Tap against the number 6 seed Monty Python
This
and
is
the Holy
awful.
Grail.
This is awful.
This is sacrilege. Travis is dying to go.
Monty Python, all
Okay.
the way. They came before. They laid the groundwork. They allowed people like Christopher Guest to stand on their shoulders.
Python.
Python for the reasons that y'all just said.
I'm going to say Python as well.
Okay.
now we're moving on to The Princess Bride versus 12 Angry Men. That's an odd pairing.
And this is not the final.
No.
Will you tell me when it's the final?
Yes.
We're about to get down to the final four after this.
All right.
I'll make it easy. 12 Angry Men for me, just because that's
Sure.
one of my all-time favorite movies.
I love The Princess Bride. It's a great movie, but as ensemble cast movies go, again, 12 Angry Men is the standard bearer, I think, until someone unseats it, and it gets through easily here.
So, you sold me a standard bearer because my last name is Allen, and that means standard bearer. And so I'm going
In
with
what
12
language?
Angry Men as well, because you're right. You could sub out somebody in Princess Bride.
Andre the
Possibility-
Giant could have been played by Big John Stroud.
All right,
Well, it was also very
Elegante.
probable that Arnold was going to be fencing.
All right. Wait a minute now. 12 Angry Men.
Mm-hmm.
Take out any of the jurors that's not Cobb,
Mm-hmm.
Fonda.
Well, E.J. Cobb steals
No,
the show.
no.
for sure.
I think that those people.
No, I'm
were-
saying take no. Think about the cast though, and your memory of them. Jurors numbers. Let's see, which ones are they?
You're actually giving my memory a lot more credit.
I mean, anybody that's not Fonda, Cobb, Balsam, Klugman.
I'm still
you
going
probably
12,
can't think of
12
them.
Angry Men, man.
You can.
It's a better ensemble film.
Okay.
As much as I like the competition.
I don't remember the actor's name, but who was the guy with the mousy voice? Like, he was very distinctive.
I think his name was like
all right.
Mickey.
Yeah.
Come on, Pluto, let's go
you
hunting.
Yes, he had a voice like that. You had to.
All right, barreling forward. Now we're in the final four. Glengarry Glen Ross versus Best in Show.
Ooh. Here's where my temporary allegiance with Todd ends. Glengarry Glen Ross is a great film, but as an ensemble cast, Best in Show, this could have been any of the David Guest movies, obviously, and
Christopher Guest.
I mean Christopher Guest. Sorry, David Guest is Liza Minnelli's husband. Yeah.
Yes.
Best in Show as an ensemble cast movie, as a comedy, as a satire, it's just impeccable. It's faultless, and I'm going with Best in Show. And
Glengarry Glen Ross, unfortunately for you, is faultless as drama and as a perfect casting for an idiosyncratic script
Tell
that
him
would
that was
not
me.
have worked with other actors because of the fact that Mamet wrote it with such precision, with every etc. accounted for. You had to have the perfect people in there. The Jenga, set falls with any of these actors out of it.
I
So
say
Glengarry
that's
Glen
applicable
Ross.
to both of the films, in my opinion.
Fair. Tell me my options again.
Best in
Glengarry, Glen Ross.
Show.
Also, is Glengarry a county in Scotland? Is it?
No.
Ireland? Glengarry County, Scotland. So and the other one is what? Best in Show?
Best in Show.
Obviously Best in Show.
I'm going Best in Show.
Obviously.
Oh,
Best
Obviously
in Show.
Best in Show because
That hurts.
Best in
because
Show.
one is serious, one is a take on seriousness.
Again, we're talking about movies.
But there's a lot
that
of
are-
humor in
that are-
Glengarry.
These movies are all rated in the high 90s. I mean, there is no loser here. This
I
is
like
just
the
a thought.
meta aspect
this-
of satire more than I like an examination of seriousness.
This is a thought experiment. We are going up against in the bottom part of the final four. We're looking at Monty Python and the Holy Grail versus 12 Angry Men.
Fuck.
Okay. 12 Angry Men. For me, even though it's tough, but that's just,
Todd's
again,
got the
I've
big
already
rubber
tipped my
stamp
hand
out.
on that, so I'm getting mine out of the way.
I agree with you. This one was hard for me. I love Monty Python, but my argument with this one is that the Holy Grail isn't even the best Monty Python movie,
Life
which I
of
would
Brian.
give to the Meaning of Life, actually.
Or Life of
Wrong.
Brian.
Life of Brian.
Both are very good, obviously. But
The
again,
fact, though, that you could discuss it.
yeah, as I said earlier, 12 Angry Men is probably the standard bearer for the ensemble cast movie. as such, it is
Damn, you
absolutely
shouldn't have said that again.
impeccable. and I'm going
that's
12 Angry
cheap.
Men.
I'm gonna say Holy Grail because I think that the ensemble is a better ensemble cast than 12 Angry Men. I think 12 Angry Men, again, I think that you're neglecting these guys that you probably couldn't tell me who they were if I put a gun to your head.
Yeah, but
Couldn't name
there's
the
a-
actor, but I
there's at
know
least
their, I
6
know
of the 12.
idiosyncrasy of the part they play.
But there's only
However,
6 in
yeah.
the Pythons.
Yeah.
And you know all of them. And I gotta go with funny over like angry.
Okay, so now
Funny over
Oh,
angry.
Alex.
turn it over to the
Interesting.
arbiter.
How does the
All right, so
person
here's
with the
thing that
theater
I-
background go?
Here's the thing that I keep thinking. So the idea of the theater background, so theater kind of equals ensemble. So I think that 12 Angry Men has the ensemble baked in because it went from stage to screen. Also, the thing about it is you've got 12 men in a room arguing about a topic.
So much
So the
testosterone.
situation is creating the ensemble. In Holy Grail, the ensemble is creating the story.
Oh, that shit is deep right there.
Therefore, I think if we're going by the standard of ensemble films, the ensemble creating the film wins out for me. It is Holy Grail.
Wow.
Okay.
Ooh, that's an upset.
All right. Well, she has spoken.
I actually
Yes.
don't. I love
Man,
Holy Grail,
we're
so I
gonna
got no
get
problem.
some angry fan mail.
Yes, all 2 of them. All right.
Or 12.
Now, and then Todd's 7 messages he'll send.
No, I love. Actually, I love the Holy Grail, so I don't have a problem.
Again, like I said, there are no losers here. Our final, then, we're looking at 2 comedies: Best in Show versus Holy Grail.
This is the kind of NCAA final that Vegas hates.
Yes.
They're both so good.
Mine's
God.
easy. I'm going with Holy Grail. I just saw Best Show in Show for the first time today. I loved it. It was great.
It's
But
a
Holy
very
Grail,
different movie than Holy Grail.
Yeah, and Holy Grail is baked into my DNA from high school and whatnot. So
When
I'm
you went to high school in the late 1970s.
I did. Yeah.
I'm still digesting, so you guys take the lead on this.
Travis?
Man, this is rough. I love my dog. Love him so much. He's the best boy. I feel like as a movie, Monty Python is more where it's at, man. I just got to go with the troupe, the comedy troupe.
All right,
the
so you have a
Monty
Holy
Python.
Grail. You have a Holy Grail. I love the Holy Grail. I love Best in Show. I think that, as a story, I think Best in Show is a more cohesive story. Holy Grail kind of meanders a bit, but that's just the nature of their comedy. But then we dial it back into the ensemble aspect of it, and I still say that you've got a Kevlar quality ensemble with Best in Show.
Okay.
That
Okay.
and whoever brought it up, Monty Python has an advantage coming into it that they were an ensemble ahead of time.
That was your lovely wife, Allie.
As Joey said, this isn't even their best film. I'm going to say Best in Show.
So that's 2 for Holy Grail and 1 for Best in Show. All right, so this makes
but
it very
as a
simple
side
for
thing,
me.
would you say the Best in Show is Guest's best film?
Yes.
Okay.
This makes it pretty easy for me. I think it's fitting that Allie should decide this championship, so I am going to go with my gut, and I'm going to kick it over to Allie. I'm voting Best in Show.
This was not scripted.
I want to say that all of the opinions I'm expressing are my own and are not influenced by the fact that I happen to be married to a host. If we look at, and I did speak of the idea that Holy Grail and the Monty Python troupe, their ensemble kind of created the film, right? You can argue that Christopher Guest's core troupe does the same thing. They just don't have as long of a history. When I look at the 2 films, and I have seen both of these, so I do have a personal opinion on them. I think they're both amazing and excellent films. I would watch either one of them multiple times. I think that Holy Grail, they've got a storyline that this group of actors is going through as a core that has all these peripheral areas. It could almost be seen as a vignette, but there is a solid core. but I think Best in Show, the way it is crafted and the way it is scripted, really relies on the ensemble to carry it from beginning to end without the external forces. So I'm going with Best in Show.
Wow.
There we go, folks.
Out of the play-in.
That's an upset to win, but it's one that I'm very happy with because I love that movie, and as I said earlier,
It's a
it
number
makes
4
me
seed.
happy. It's like comfort food, you know.
All right, kids. There we go. The best ensemble film ever made,
According to us.
according to us, is Best in Show.
I don't think any one of us would have predicted that as the winner.
I would not have.
No.
However, it's ironic that the best one has the word best as the first word.
It was the best in this show.
I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us this evening. Thank you, Allie, for being the arbiter. And
For better, for worse.
I think it was a good episode. I think we might be doing a watch party next. I have a relic from 1995 that none of you have heard of. I'm going to pre-screen it.
I've heard of it because you told me about
I'm going to
it.
pre-screen it to make sure it's okay, but we may be into robotica
What
territory.
would not be okay?
I don't know.
Snuff films. I don't want to
Snuff.
watch
Yeah,
snuff
we're not going to watch
films.
Snuff. So that's going to be coming up in a few weeks once we get it on the calendar. So we hope that you'll join us and listen in. Please check us out on social media. We are Cinema Chop Shop everywhere except for YouTube, where we are Cinema Chop Podcast, where you can listen to a video presentation of this episode. Please rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. Get that man a tissue. Love your neighbors, love yourself, be good to yourself, and be kind to others. And please remember to watch, chop, retrofit.
And tell your friends you love them.